Hello, everyone. We're your host, Cohn and Rob Schuh. The Niners play the Seahawks in about 48 hours. We're going to break it all down for you today. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing all right. I'd say fantastic, but the 49ers were not so great on Sunday, and so I'm a little bit down because of that, but I'm not going to let it come through. Can't get in the way of a great show.
That's true. You know, the 49ers play can dip and rise, but you have to remain consistent.
That's right.
You know?
I do.
Just because they lose doesn't mean that you can lower your standard, and you never do, which is what I like about you.
No, I've got a high bar. The show must go on, Grant.
And
the show must go on.
How are we starting today?
I think we've got to talk about something giving, because there are two things prevalent for the game on Sunday, and one of them's got to give because it can't be true at the end of the game. So the two things that we think are true to this point is that the Seattle defense has really struggled, right? It has struggled to get off the field. And the question is, the 49ers to this point have not gotten out of the gate quickly. And so one of those things has to change, right? Either Seattle's defense has to look better in the first quarter because the San Francisco 49ers can't move the ball, or the San Francisco 49ers get right against the Seattle defense and finally move the ball and score something in the first quarter. How do you see it breaking out?
Well, I'm looking here. It says that Seattle has a terrible third down defense. They're giving up conversions on basically 50%, 48.7% of their third down. So that explains they can't get off the field.
No.
And Jimmy Garoppolo is very good at converting third downs. And so what the Niners theoretically could do in this game is have long drives like they do. I mean, they're not a very explosive offense anymore. I don't know if they're going to get big plays unless Deebo Samuel just runs away from people, which he does once he tries the game. Other than that, they're going to have to grind out really long drives, which is a good strategy when you don't have the best quarterback in the game.
It is.
If you have a modest quarterback and they have a Hall of Famer, you should probably be trying to keep that guy on the bench as much as possible, just being realistic. And the Niners, that's probably going to be their game plan. Now, they're going to have to run the ball well, and they haven't been able to do that since like the first half of week one. So we'll see if they have some answers there.
And it looks like Mitchell is at least highly questionable. All these new designations, right?
Highly questionable, yeah.
Highly questionable,
yeah.
Which probably means that he's not going to be able to go on Sunday, or if he is, that there's a good chance he gets dinged up again. I mean, that's a shoulder injury, right? He's going to be leading with that shoulder into the Seattle defense. You would think there's a reasonable chance that he dings it up again, even if he does go.
Agree.
So I looked at the Seattle defense, and through the first three games, it really is atrocious. I mean, you mentioned the third down struggles. Looking at the number of first downs that they have given up through this point, 84 first downs through 3 games, 28 first downs per game. Just to give you a frame of reference, the best offense in the league is Dallas at this point, and they have averaged 27 first downs per game. So the best offense in the league is averaging fewer first downs than Seattle's defense is giving up.
Wow. What a way to look at it. Okay. So, I mean, look, the Niners scored 28 last week, and their offense averaged only 4.6 yards per play. So they went against a bad Packers defense. They scored 28. It wasn't enough. I think we would expect the 49ers, even if they struggle to run the ball, to get some big plays over the middle of Deebo and to have 3 or 4 long drives and to probably get to 25, 26, 27 points. Question is it going to be enough against this quarterback with these wide receivers? I'm not sure it will be.
Right. And this inability to get off the field has led to an interesting juxtaposition in Seattle's rushing defense, where they're giving up pretty close to the league average of 4.5 yards per carry. Not atrocious, certainly not great, but not atrocious. But they're averaging 150 yards allowed per game. So their inability to get off the field on third down is just leading to other teams being able to run a considerable number of times per game. And that bodes well for the 49ers offense, who, if they are down Mitchell, are not an explosive run team. I mean, what we saw having to scheme up Juice and Deebo and Kittle, that was having to get creative in trying to generate some rush and doing so unsuccessfully against Green Bay. you would think that against this Seattle defense, that matchup favors the 49ers.
Now, I wanted to say something real quick. Kittle might not play in this game.
Right.
He's highly questionable, too. He hasn't practiced all week. He has a calf injury. Last year, he did play against Seattle in Seattle. There were no fans of that game. Debo didn't play in that game. Jimmy played in that game. Jimmy went 11 for 16, 84 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 55 quarterback rating, 3 sacks, didn't finish the game. That was his most recent experience against the Seahawks. And I think what you're going to see is even though the Seahawks have a bad defense, defenses are being very specific against the 49ers. They're not doing what they always do against the 49ers. They're doing the 49er defense, which is put a bunch of guys on the line of scrimmage and take away the ability for them to get to the perimeter, take away the ability for them to double team in the interior and just kind of beat them up one-on-one in the on the offensive line and make them throw. And if the Niners don't have a solution for that, then this Seahawks defense is going to look good, even though it's not.
Yeah, the 49ers offense to this point seems fairly predictable, even when you factor in the creative run scheme, because teams seem to have caught up to some degree in being able to match up against that. I found it interesting. Shanahan threw it out there about the Seahawks. This is a quote from Kyle Shanahan. "I know their defensive numbers aren't that good, but that won't be the case at the end of the year." And honestly, the first thought that popped into my head is, that's a fact. And part of the reason is they haven't faced the 49ers yet. And those 2 games against the Niners could potentially stack up some good defensive stats for Seattle.
Well, they typically improve the Seahawks defense as the season goes on. Pete Carroll's a very good coach. And what I'm saying is they're going to have the right defensive game plan for this game. They did it last year. They faced Jimmy Garoppolo a lot of times. They know how to – everyone knows how to shut down the 49ers run game right now. And what the players are saying is like the coaches are coming to us midweek and saying, okay, this is what this team does on defense. And when they get to the game and they're realizing – these teams aren't doing what they normally do. When they face us, they all do the same thing because it works. And we're not anticipating it. We're not adjusting to it. We haven't found the answers to it. Maybe they will this week. But real quick, what's happening is a specific front. You have a defensive lineman in front of the center, a defensive lineman in front of both guards, and then guys on the outside, outside linebackers setting the edge against the tackles. The Niners can't get double teams on the interior. They usually have Mack and a guard double teaming a nose tackle, but they're all singled up. And what's happening is Mack and Brunskill can't hold up one-on-one. They're getting driven into the backfield.
Blown off the ball.
They're getting blown off the ball. So that's a big problem. 2/5 of the line is getting blown off the ball, and they can't help them in any way. So they're going to have to figure out different ways to run the ball. And I have some suggestions. We'll talk about that later. I have the answers. That's why I'm wearing the thing.
That's fantastic news, Grant. That is fantastic.
But it's not time for that yet. We have to create drama and suspense.
Yeah, and interior pressure most definitely is the worst type of pressure for an immobile quarterback. Jimmy has historically struggled, and we've all seen it, when there's a rusher coming up the middle that bull rushes right through the center or right guard spots. That's tough to overcome. Tough for any quarterback, not just Jimmy, but in particular someone who doesn't have the ability to roll out and escape the pocket quite as easily.
Frank says that's a good point. Teams know how to defend the offense, but we don't have a speedy running back. Elijah crushed week 1 then when he got to the perimeter. But they're taking away the perimeter by design. When you put those outside linebackers right there, it's really hard. You're basically asking your tight end to get outside. The guy has outside leverage on the tight end. You really can't. We're going to talk about what you can do, but trying to get to the perimeter, you're going to fail. You got to take what the defense gives you, and that's what they're not giving you. Yeah, we're going to talk about why.
And that lineup forces Kittle to stay in blocking far more often than 49ers fans might like.
And keep in mind, Kittle may not play in this game.
But that opens the door for Ross Dwelly, a whole nother can of worms, but clearly a breakout game is coming.
Dwelly's a hell of a receiver and a willing blocker, but for what they need in this game, he's not the man they need to call on. I have the solution. Don't worry. I got the solution. We'll talk.
Good to hear it.
Let's get to our next topic.
All right.
You can lead it off. You're the MC of this show.
I'd be happy to. Happy to, my friend.
I just take a back seat when Rob's on. I love Rob.
I knew how much you love the Beatles. I mean, you've said it repeatedly, depending on who you attribute.
I love their work.
Yes. An epic band. So the question here is, can the 49ers get by without a little help from their friends? If you're familiar with the Beatles song or Joe Cocker, you'll know
I
what
like
I'm
the Joe
talking
Cocker
about
version
there. Yeah,
because
me
of Wonder
too.
Years.
Joe Cocker version is classic,
Yeah.
especially the live one from Woodstock. If you're a young 49er fan, go check it out. So to this point, it's fair to say that the 49ers have gotten little to no production from their first overall draft picks. Would you agree?
First four. Yes. And they are Trey Lance, Aaron Banks, Trey Sermon, Ambry Thomas. Yes.
Yes. This year's first four draft picks,
Actually,
and you
the
could
next
argue
one is
next
Jalen
year's
Moore,
first.
who hasn't played either, so that's 5.
It's tough. It's painful. It's painful. It hurts me to hear it. So really, it got me thinking, why do the 49ers not trust their young rookies, and can they win without them? Obviously, we have a couple of overperformers later in the draft, right, that have stepped in, but there's this odd usage of rookies. So my first question to you is Kyle Shanahan stubborn in his use of rookies? Is he old school in that fact?
No, I don't think so. I would use the word inconsistent. He played Mike McGlinchey. McGlinchey started as a rookie. Nick Bosa started as a rookie. Deebo Samuel started as a rookie. Fred Warner started as a rookie. He's had Dante Pettis started as a rookie. Brandon Ayuk started as a rookie just last year. This is all new. I would use the word inconsistent, and that's what makes it so intriguing. It's really hard to follow Kyle Shanahan's logic or find a pattern here. It almost feels out of character.
It does, and it is hard to track. It feels to me as an odd example of most coaches, when you're talking about high round draft picks, most coaches are going to let them visibly fail on the field, right?
Yeah, most coaches are wanted those players. Most coaches advocated for them to be on. They're all in. They've bought in. Usually, when all the top picks aren't playing, I start getting suspicious. And we'll talk about my theory as to what's going on, because this is very suspicious. It's like, did you not want any of these guys? I mean, I thought you had final say over the offensive players, but right now it's almost like you're surprised that you got these guys, and you're like, well, none of these guys can help me. Jim Harbaugh used to do that with Trent Baalke, and those two had very little overlap in their work. I mean, I think Harbaugh felt you just gave me these guys without asking about scheme fit. I mean, I don't have to play them. I don't have to make you look good. And we always thought that Lynch and Shanahan had a much closer relationship. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself.
You're right on to what I was going to key in on, which is with Baalke and Harbaugh, it fit. It looked like there was animosity there. There was a tenseness in the conversations, in the dialogues. And you could tell that there was a certain unrest in the house. And so when you started to see it materialize in not playing the draft picks, it fit the scenario. But you just described the quandary that all 49ers fans have to go through at this moment in time, which is the seeming reality that there's a good relationship there, that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are on the same page when they talk about what they want from specific position groups or from a draft pick. It seems to be aligned, and yet at this point, there's visual evidence that contradicts that.
Look, I bet they do like each other. I'm sure they spend time together socially. You see that they socialize with their wives and Jed, and I see them at practice. They always are standing next to each other, smiling, talking. I bet they do like each other, but it's a very cutthroat business. Mm-hmm. And these guys all have their dream jobs and they make tons of money. And let's say they felt that they were on the hot seat this year, and if they missed the playoffs, one of them could get fired. Well, from everything I've ever seen in the NFL, people protect themselves. It is a survivalist league. And even with your friends, if it came down to it, hey man, it's me or you. It's me or you. And it's not down to it yet. They're freaking 2-1. They could be 3-1. They could be 4-1. But people prepare for these outcomes, and they don't just wait until they're 2-5 to start getting their story out there, because then you could be out of luck. So it just seems to me that I've seen this before, and it feels like both guys are kind of preparing their defense.
That is key in strategic planning. You have to get ahead of the story. You can't wait until you're behind it, and then it looks like you're making excuses. You have to set it up just in case things go badly, and then you can shift to your narrative because you've already planted seeds for it.
Right, because Kyle Shanahan hasn't come out and said these first 4 draft picks are trash.
No.
He's just not playing them.
That's right.
And, if they go 15-2 this year, he could say, well, we were a great team and they weren't quite ready. And I like them. And we're taking it slow and everything's great. Everything's hunky dory. But if they go 6-11 this year, Kyle privately at the end of the season, if Jed York calls in a meeting and says, Kyle, tell me why I shouldn't fire you. Tell me why I should fire John instead of you. Kyle could say, well, I didn't ask for Trey Lance. I didn't ask for Trey Sermon. I didn't want Aaron Banks. I didn't want Ambry Thomas. Look at his draft record. But then John can come back and say, well, but you also didn't want Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady. I mean, it's hard to keep up with what you do and don't want. I do the best I can. I tried to get you to look at Mahomes and you were like, no. I got my own plan. You and your coaching staff vetoed the greatest quarterback of all time. How can I be held responsible for this, Jed? So I think it's very interesting what's happening here. And again, they're 2-1. It may never come down to this stuff, but you can already see the moves that would need to be played by both sides.
I like the idea of picturing the conversation around Mahomes. Should we look into Patrick Mahomes? No, don't bother. We've got Kirk Cousins on the horizon.
Yeah,
don't you worry.
I got a plan.
Yeah.
That's a very good trump card. I think everyone feels that if this season goes wrong, Lynch is the one who gets scapegoated. But he's got some powerful things he can play, really. So it's my fault that we don't have Tom Brady on this team. Jed, that's not true. I wanted him. I wanted Patrick Mahomes. What's up with that? Theoretically, he could say things like that.
He could, and don't underestimate the power of the gold jacket either. He just donned that thing. There is a lot of charisma that comes from wearing that gold jacket, and a lot of bravado that comes with it as well. I can imagine that would impress Jed in sitting. I'm sure he'd wear the gold jacket when going to see Jed at the end of the year, just to remind him.
He just is very professional, and he can make himself look good. I mean, to me, the way I look at it is, Kyle wanted Mac Jones. John Lynch wanted Trey Lance. John Lynch won.
Yeah.
He's just very good at making his case. So I'm curious. Everyone's writing off John Lynch here. I'm not saying that's the right call, but I wouldn't write this off. So you're discounting John Lynch's savviness here.
Yeah, I think that's fair to bring up. I would say I'm on the side of believing John's on the hotter seat of the two. No question.
I'm with you. I just think that to bring it back to the beginning of this topic, the not playing the first 4 draft picks is just so blatantly obvious. I'm sorry.
It is. So that brings us to the second part of this, which is the question of, are the 49ers deep enough to win without contributions from this group? Thoughts?
I mean, a Super Bowl? No, absolutely not. To me, a team that to win the Super Bowl, you have to have a great team and you have to knock out your draft picks and free agency. You can't just whiff on. Now, this is kind of similar. In 2012, the Niners drafted A.J. Jenkins and went to the Super Bowl and lost. So maybe. But they didn't get many contributions from their rookies. I think a little from LaMichael James, but that was it. Probably not, Rob. But probably not.
I mean, a lot of things can go right in an NFL season. So it's such a small sample size. These aren't best of 7 series in the playoffs. They're one and done. Anything can happen on any given Sunday. But I think when you're playing the percentages, I'm with you that if you're not getting contributions from the first 4, it's going to be really, really difficult for things to break your way.
And it's a long season. You can get them involved later on, but you probably should.
Yes.
As Thompson says, this is the most underrated show on the Cohn rotation. Love Rob's silky radio voice. So do I.
Cheers to you, my friend.
Yeah, you have a hell of a camera too, like the way that it refocuses. Lynch could also say, well, how would we know if he's ready when you never gave him a chance to play, Kyle? Good point.
That's part of the point, right? We just don't know about the vast majority. My point was Sermon in particular. With a rookie running back, it's really hard to tell what they have in preseason, in practices. You need to see the live bullets. You need to see them out there on the field in real action, real games. And to this point, we just haven't seen it. Even last week, where you thought it was going to be a heavy dose of Sermon, we just needed to initially dive into the bag of tricks because Kyle Shanahan didn't trust our typical run game with Sermon behind the line. And that's a 3rd-round draft pick spent on a running back. That's crazy.
Yeah. And you got a right guard who's getting blown into the backfield and a 2nd-round pick at right guard who can't get on the field.
It boggles the mind, right? It'd be one thing if you saw them on the field with your own eyes and watched them struggle, but to not even give them the chance is the strange portion of this.
Mayoko's article only mentions coaching staff, not Lynch. Coincidence? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. To me, my best guess, I'm wondering. It seems to me that Kyle Shanahan burned a lot of his bridges in the media. And if he wants to get his side of the story out, he's got to do it without the media. Harbaugh was the same way. Harbaugh didn't talk to the media. He just didn't play Balky's guys. Message sent.
He sent
Message sent. It's his fault. Kyle could be doing the same thing right now. And if that's the case, I would imagine Lynch is noticing it. Oh, he's putting me right on the chopping block. So it's going to be my fault because I got him 4 picks he's not using. Okay, well, I got to get my story out there.
He set me up.
Yeah.
He set me up. So this is the last question I want to throw out here on this topic. It seems to me that it is actually harder for the players that he has high expectations of. Do you see a trend that the ones that we're trading up for, it's harder for them to crack into the rotation?
No, again, like they traded up for Ayuk and he started last year. They traded up for Pettis and he started initially. I think what we're seeing, what's so weird about this season, that there's no rhyme or reason with what's going on. Ayuk didn't play at all the first 2 games and then he's in. Like what was that? And I think what's so strange about Kyle right now is he's erratic. It's hard to explain where he's going, how he's making the decisions he's making. In the past, I think a smart football people felt they could keep up with his decisions. And now I think everyone's lost. It's like, okay, are you purposely keeping us in the dark? I don't know.
Yeah, and it's fair to wonder, oftentimes when you see erratic behavior that's unpredictable, that comes from some feeling of pressure, some feeling of needing to do more than you can at that moment, and then acting desperately.
Yeah. I think the desperation probably comes from the fact that he feels if he doesn't make the playoffs this year, he could be out of a job.
It's about to get real.
And his job is now dependent on 2 quarterbacks he doesn't want.
Yep. I would say my observation is that for the people they trade up for, it is harder because even those 2 you mentioned, Pettis and Ayuk, they eventually got to a point where they had to be sent a message, right? They had to go to the doghouse.
That's true.
And this year, it just seems that those players that we were all so excited about because it seemed the 49ers were so excited about them are now an afterthought. It's just crazy to me. It's wild.
Yeah. Hard to say. All right. It's almost like he saves up for a new toy and gets it and is more disappointed because he spent more for it.
Yeah.
So
or he's so afraid he's gonna scratch the new car that he puts it in the garage. He's like, I can't. I don't want to take it out and get a door
on it now. I don't like
it
anymore. Yeah. I used to like it, but now it has 1 scratch on it, and it's just
it's flawed.
It's gonna get a new car. Okay. Next one is Kyle gaming Pete.
All right. So Kyle, to this point this season, would you agree, has been all over the map in what he has told you and other beat reporters in how he is going to use Trey Lance. And he seems to be delighting in that fact.
Utterly all over the map. And when I ask him about it, he's like, I've been consistent all year. Like, no, you haven't. Okay.
Yeah. It's been obvious what I've said, Grant. Just follow along.
Trying.
Connect the dots.
Trying.
Yeah, it's crazy. So this week, it seemed that Kyle seemed to go out of his way to imply that Trey and his usage will not go up substantially. And there's no way that we're seeing the platooning in and out like we did in the preseason. That was preseason. This is the regular season. You're never going to see that. So I began to wonder, and admittedly, this is, just throwing it out there. I'm not predicting this, but it's a fun thing to mentally go through the exercise. Does Kyle's messaging on Trey this week actually imply that this is the week Trey's package gets laid out there for everyone to see? He's saying there's no way, and therefore this is the week.
Isn't that so sad that it's come to this, where Kyle Shanahan has essentially fibbed to us so many times this year that if he says something emphatically, we're like, well, that means that the opposite right there. That proves the opposite. I've got to read on Kyle now. If he says happening the opposite, I don't know, maybe, dude. I think that might be, there might have something to that. He's basically said all year, don't believe a word I say. That's the most consistent thing he said all year is, look, I don't have to tell you the truth, and I'm not going to. And then he goes on to contradict himself left and right and says, look, I've been very consistent. Yeah, you have been consistent. Don't listen to what I'm saying. I'm not telling you the truth. So when he says, like, I'm not going to play Trey, or, he's just like another wide receiver or tight end, or just don't listen to him. He basically says he doesn't want to answer any questions. He doesn't want to be held accountable. Yeah, he spent a first-round pick plus 2 more on this guy, but stop asking about him. Who cares? You know what I'm saying? He's got that on lock. Don't worry about it. That's for him to worry about. Stop asking him. No, but really, I think he certainly could spring Trey Lance this week. I'm going to say something else. He better, because if he doesn't, I think he's going to lose. Like, it's real noble to try to win games without your best quarterback.
Yes.
Your most talented quarterback. But you should probably play your most talented quarterback at some point. I'm just saying.
Probably should.
Probably should.
Especially
Most
when your
teams do.
offense is struggling in the way that the 49ers had coming out of the gate.
Particularly the run game.
Particularly the run game that seems to be lacking the same creative juices that were so successful in years past. People seem to have caught up to the creativity that is on the field this year.
Needs a wrinkle.
Needs a wrinkle. Where could we find a wrinkle for this offense?
Didn't they spend like a bunch of first-round picks on just such a wrinkle?
We
I
have
think
a
this week would
first
be a
round pick
perfect
this
time.
year.
Again, these are really difficult games. Maybe they would have beaten the Packers had they gotten Trey Lance involved in the first half and not fallen behind 17-0.
Right.
Maybe they would have. Hard to win when you fall behind 17-0. Very courageous comeback. Hard to win. And
Very
if they do that
courageous.
again this week, they're not going to beat Russell Wilson. We're going to talk about how good he is in close games.
So clutch.
Better than Rodgers.
Yeah. I mean, I think if we cover the reasons that the 49ers should implement Trey this week, they seem obvious to me. You want to get out of the gate like gangbusters. You cannot have another game where you come out slowly. I said it last week before the Packers game. If the 49ers come out and put up a goose egg in the first quarter, we will lose to the Packers. Sure enough, we lost to the Packers because we came out and laid an egg in the first quarter. It felt like there was nothing that could go right. And we went to every trick in the bag when it came to the run game, except the one that every fan wants to see, which is Trey Lance.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like they ended up scoring 29 points and Trey Lance scored a touchdown, even through a pass. So no one really complained. But if they lose this game by 2 touchdowns and only score 13 points on offense, it'll be an outcry. And that could happen because, again, the last time Jimmy Garoppolo played the Seahawks, 11-16, 84 yards, no touchdowns, 1 pick, didn't finish the game. When you face Jimmy more and more, everyone, the players, the coaches get a feel for all the places on the field you don't have to really honor. And it becomes much more game plan specific and harder for him. I think he does really good against teams that haven't faced him before. The Lions, that are just kind of playing straight up as opposed to playing to take away his strengths. So
yes, trying to do what they do well. And I think that as we go on this season, what has become very clear to me, and credit to you because you called this out at the beginning of the year, and maybe he's played better than what you implied he would, but this is the same Jimmy. I mean, let's just put that out there, that this Jimmy that we're seeing now, where he's playing well, but still has those head-scratching moments where he's going to turn the ball over, he's going to do something that you scream at the TV, what in the hell are you doing, Jimmy? That's going to happen. It's the same limitations that he has. And don't get me wrong, Jimmy is an average or above average quarterback in the league. He's at that 16, 15 rank in the league, in my opinion, of best quarterbacks out of the 32 starters. And yet you have the potential for something on your roster. This is a season where we're talking about trying to make a run. What is obvious to me, the defense is not what it was in 2019. And in 2019, we needed every bit of that defense to help Jimmy out and winning the games that we did to get to the Super Bowl. We have the same Jimmy this year. And therefore, if we are going to get to the Super Bowl, we would need that same defense. We don't have that defense. But what we do have is a quarterback on the bench that potentially could be groomed into the quarterback that could take us deep into the playoffs. But we're not grooming him. We're not giving him those snaps. So it's just frustrating to me to see that trend, knowing that we could come out and have a robust package for Lance this week, but in all likelihood, we probably won't.
Well, real quick, I mean, I can understand Kyle Shanahan saying I don't need to play Trey Lance a lot to beat Lance a lot. Oh, I don't need to play Trey Lance a lot to beat the Packers. I've beaten the Packers before. I can score on this team. He can't feel that confident this week against the Seahawks. The last time he went against the Seahawks, I don't know. I think he needs to do a little bit more. We'll see. We'll see. We got to answer some questions. The main threat says Sermon can play, just needs more carries. Started to get no rhythm last game in the second half, then was frozen out after the drop. Yeah, I think he needs some space to run.
Yeah, I agree. And you have to give him the carries in order to get there. I was shocked by the lack of usage when he finally did get his shot.
Yeah. Matt says Banks played left guard in college. Try throwing with your non-dominant hand. Tough going left guard to right guard. How many O-line run Kyle schemes in college? It's all spread RPO. Yeah, that was a mistake. Good call, Matt.
And let's say that Banks, to this point has not been successful, but there's every likelihood that he does pick that up. He had the unfortunate injury timing. Perhaps that would have helped him, but it didn't seem as if he was progressing in the preseason. So I don't know when he takes over right guard.
Don says, honestly, I think Kyle is a real problem evaluating talent, especially in real time. Wilson, blatant miss. Sermon should have been pulled at half. Yeah. Is he evaluating talent or is he thinking of his next play call? David says, you see York stepping in to force Kyle to play the rooks. Where does York stand with this team? Possibility York is pressuring Kyle behind the scenes. I think the pressure was to not take Mac Jones, but at this point, I don't think Jed York's going to tell him who to play. He's not Al Davis. Al Davis would do that.
No, Jed doesn't strike me as the type of personality that forcefully inserts himself into situations like that. I feel like he will sit back, let things unfold, and then make his decisions at the end of the year.
Relax, Trey fans. Kyle will never reveal when Lance plays. Lance could play 99% of the snaps, and Kyle will say he's a backup. Jimmy's our guy. Yeah, of course. And Jimmy was great. He'll say that too. All right.
Jimmy's our starter. We have a starting quarterback.
Let's talk rookie quarterback adversity.
Yeah, this one came up. Interesting that they threw it out last night in the game on the broadcast. The announcers mentioned the fact that in his lifetime, Trevor Lawrence has only lost 2 games prior to coming into the NFL.
Wow.
That's crazy. Wow. You go your entire life. And my guess is, even in those 2 losses, I'm sure the offense he was a part of put up a staggering number of points, and it just was that they got outscored by someone else. But this is something that is most likely true of all quarterbacks that come up that are highly touted, because they're a part of these organizations and teams that are just dominant because they are recruited to these organizations, and they tend to grow up in areas of the country that have these dominant football programs. So I got curious. When was Trey Lance's last loss? Any guesses as to that?
High school.
High school, indeed. It has been almost 4 years since Trey Lance last lost a football game before Sunday's loss to Green Bay. As a matter of fact, it was November 10th, 2017 in the state championship tourney that Trey Lance last lost a football game. A couple of interesting stats.
He couldn't win the state championship? What a bum. Come on, Trey.
Actually, 3 times in a row, his sophomore, junior, and senior year in high school, all lost in the state tourney. I think his sophomore year,
never would have drafted him number 3.
In his sophomore year, I think he threw a whopping 8 passes, so I'm not putting that one on him. But in college, he was undefeated, right? 15-0 in 2018 on those teams. 2019, 16-0 as he took over the starting position. In 2020, 1-0. So he's faced no adversity, because life throws a lot of different adversity at you, but no adversity when it comes to the idea of losing football games. And so these guys have this immense level of confidence because they've been winning for years. Imagine that. Imagine, I don't know, going out to the bar and asking out girls, and for 4 years, nobody says no. How high is your confidence at that point?
I mean, that's my life.
Yes. That's why you are who you are. That's why your confidence shines through the screen as it does. Your wife is going to see this show and give you
back when I was younger.
That's right. Yeah. UCLA days.
Yeah.
So there is this confidence level that they have, and there's something to the idea of damaging that confidence. Trevor Lawrence has now lost 4 games in a row after coming into the NFL. And granted, in the post-game presser when I saw him last night, he looked unflappable. I mean, he just has that confidence, and I hope that I see that from Trey Lance as well. But it begs the question of, is the old school mentality of, hey, the most important thing we can do for this rookie is make sure that we don't damage him in his rookie year by damaging that confidence. Is there something to that?
Perhaps, absolutely. I think it's case by case, and we'll find out what is the best method for developing these quarterbacks. There's five that went in the first round. Four.
Five. Yes, five.
Okay.
Five.
And four of them are playing now. One isn't. My question is, who's going to be better next year? The guys who are playing now or the one who isn't?
Right.
And I know it worked out for Mahomes and Rodgers not playing, but those guys weren't lacking for playing time when they got to the league. Mahomes played a lot in college. Rodgers played a lot in college. Lance didn't. So I'm curious to see if another year on the bench means that he's going to hit the ground running in 2022, or if that just means that next year will be his rookie year. In 2023, because I mean, you could say that you could lose confidence on the field, or you could gain confidence from getting experience and getting a feel for the speed of the game and that kind of stuff.
If history is a predictor of this, Lance in 2018, it was his redshirt season, but he did come into a couple of games and did rush twice for 2 touchdowns in that redshirt season. And it sure did seem to boost that confidence and lead to an amazing 2019 where he threw 0 picks going on an undefeated run.
Yep. That's right. This guy's a winner. I'm curious to see what happens. I don't understand why people were talking about Houdini's 5 minutes of funk, but that was a lot of fun. Really like that. Okay, sorry. Was there anything more you want to say about rookie quarterback? It's a very interesting topic. And I think like it's case by case, because if the Jags could not play Lawrence, you might not, because they suck so much. But the Niners, there's so many good weapons here. You figure Trevor Lawrence would do a lot better here. You would think Trevor Lawrence would kick ass here.
Oh, you would think so.
I would think he would. Or if you were on the Rams, something like that. But on Jaguars, it's like, it's not his fault.
I thought that too last night. Any other year, you give up 3 first-round draft picks, you would expect that would be for the number 1 overall quarterback. You would think with what we gave up to move up this year that we would have Trevor Lawrence on our roster.
But no.
No, we got the third quarterback. Yeah, so I mean, you look at the different cases right now. I think you could look at Trevor Lawrence and say, well, he's lost 4 in a row, but he does look unflappable. And then you turn over and you look at the situation in Chicago for Justin Fields, and that does look like it could damage his confidence. That does look like they're about to do something bad to that guy.
He got sacked like 7 or 8 times. Yeah, 9. That was really bad. I felt bad.
Yeah,
that's what I think. It doesn't help the quarterback if he's just getting sacked left and right. Yeah, get him out. Like that's not that's what happened to David Carr.
And Alex Smith, he had that quote, which is another tie-in to this segment, which is Alex said he was on ESPN's Monday Night Countdown, and he was quoted as, "I really felt like it set me back," talking about playing right away. "My first start, it was a disaster. I had no business being out there." And that speaks to me of a complete lack of confidence in his ability to perform in that situation. And I do think if you're put out there when you feel that way, that can be a detriment to you.
But it was also like the Niners' inability to put him in a position to succeed because they were the worst team in the league. And they had terrible coaches. And they had a new coaching staff. And they had nothing established. And they were basically saying, hey, 21-year-old Alex Smith, establish the culture. Let's lead us to victory. They didn't give him any type of structure to succeed.
Last thought on this, Shanahan seems to be attempting to put Trey Lance into a position to succeed, even if the team doesn't, which is interesting because I thought this was a year where we were all in. It begs the question, big picture, is Trey's development more important than the 2021 season?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course.
I agree.
I mean, I think we all think based on the first couple of weeks, this season is a playoff berth, but maybe not a division title, maybe a wild card berth at best. So yeah. And then next year you're going to have a new starting quarterback, right? So at some point you got to prepare that transition.
You do. Yeah, I came into this year being a bit more optimistic about our actual chances of making a deep run, but that was reliant upon a healthy Jason Verrett and a top 5 defense. I've had to readjust those expectations. I'm down to playoff caliber team, and therefore the development of Trey does take priority.
Yeah. Chris says, I understand not starting Lance, but using him once or twice in a game does nothing to develop the kid. Give him a drive or 2 a game. That develops. Thank you.
Yes. Build the confidence. Build it.
Okay. More last minute heroics. What's this about?
Russell Wilson. So the 49ers defense has struggled to contain teams down the stretch to close out games. We struggled against the Lions and Jared Goff. Russell Wilson is a phenomenal closer. I mean, he'd be the best closer in baseball, right? This guy is just good. He is money. So if the game is close, will Russell Wilson pull off a win? Let me throw out a couple of stats here for you. Russell Wilson is tied for the most fourth quarter comebacks, 21, and game-winning drives, 27, since entering the league in 2012, including the postseason. That is crazy, right? Just amazing. He has the highest fourth quarter passer rating in the league since 1991 with a minimum of 500 attempts, 109.6 in the fourth quarter. Seahawks have a 269-point differential in the fourth quarter since 2012. And he has the second highest career passer rating in NFL history behind only, guess who? Aaron Rodgers. Aaron was able to come back, drive down the field with 37 seconds left on the clock. Will the 49ers struggle to Russell Wilson? And if it's close, will he bring them down the field and win it for the Seahawks?
Yeah. If the Niners had Jason Verrett and Josh Norman and DeForest Buckner, then no. But they don't. And it seems to me like they're not going to they don't have a solution for the chip blocks all of a sudden. They've never been good at containing mobile quarterbacks. They don't have their top two cornerbacks. They don't have anyone who can cover DK Metcalf. I don't know if they have anyone who can cover Tyler Lockett. They don't have their starting nickelback. I don't see how, they're going to have to win this game with offense. I think they're going to have to win this game by winning time of possession, running the hell out of the ball, and scoring a lot of points. Otherwise, I think this defense is outmanned. I mean, I know the Seahawks defense is struggling too, but they don't have to face Russell Wilson. They don't have to face DK Metcalf. They may not have to face George Kittle. So we'll see. No Mostert either.
Oof, that's rough. Yeah, I mean, it seems to set up that if this thing is close, the 49ers will drop this game much the same way that they dropped the last one to the Packers.
And who's to say it's going to be close? The Seahawks could jump up early, just like the Packers did last week.
Yeah.
They could.
Yeah. My point being, if it's a 1-point game, I think that this slides Seattle, a one possession game towards the end of the game. I think that this slides in Seattle's favor most definitely. And that does not rule out the potential of Seattle just jumping all over the 49ers from the outset. But even if the Niners keep this a close one, if it's too close for comfort in that fourth quarter, I just have no faith that this defense can actually get themselves off the field and make a play because they haven't been able to do so yet.
It's a very talented defense, but it's a really inexperienced defensive coordinator. And what we've seen in his first test, he couldn't adjust. First of all, he fell behind early. He got back in the game, and he couldn't adjust. That's bad. And we're going to have to see what he can do against an even bigger test.
Yeah, it would seem that the Niners have to play complementary football, that the offense has to carry its weight in this game because the defense does not strike me as being set up to succeed against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks in the fourth quarter.
They're just outmanned. They don't have anyone who can match up with DK Metcalf.
They do not.
All right, let's look ahead to these next two games.
Looking forward to the next two games. I mean, tough division matchups that we have here coming up against Seattle and then going up against Arizona the following week, traveling down to our second home from last season. In the best division in football, we're going up against two tough matchups. So what do you see as the keys for the 49ers in being successful against the Seahawks, first and foremost?
Okay. They have to find a way to run the ball schematically. It's not on the players executing better, Kyle, Mike McDaniel. It's on you guys. And you guys should be able to figure this out. But I'm going to tell you how to do it because you guys have your head in the game right now. So what you're going to face is you're going to face a six-man front. You faced it from them before. They're going to plug every single gap and have two guys setting the edge, and they're going to dare you to throw. But you still got to find a way to run the ball. So seems to me what you're going to get is you're going to get these guys setting the edge, and you're not going to get to the perimeter. What you need to do is push those guys out. Instead of trying to get outside of them, push them out. And the way you did it last year was you would have Juszczyk come in motion pre-snap like a jet sweep, and he would have like a jet sweep block, and you would get full speed and knock that outside linebacker further out and create some – basically what you do is it would be an RPO with Jeff Wilson Jr. coming up the middle off tackle and Juszczyk coming out, kicking out that guy. A better way to do that play would be with Trey Lance. You get in the shotgun, Trey Sermon, off tackle, kick out with use check. You got the backside outside linebacker that is unblocked. And if he crashes down to get the running back, now Lance keeps it and gets to the perimeter. I think that's a good way, a better way to attack these fronts that they're going to face, because you can't just give up on the run game. You got to find a way to work it. Otherwise, you're going to lose a passing game to Russell Wilson.
Yes, this sets up perfectly if you can run the football. Seattle's defense to this point cannot get off the field, has struggled on third downs. What's the best way to succeed against that? Run the ball effectively on early downs, set up the short passing downs on third down, and allow Jimmy, with the good third down conversion rate at this point, to be successful and keep the drives alive.
I got another suggestion.
Please.
Kittle may not play.
Correct.
And the solution, if they're going to be dominant as a run blocking team, it's Dwelly's. That's not Dwelly's game. What they may want to try is some six offensive lineman formations. What you could do is bring in Jalen Moore and sort of put him between Brunskill and McGlinchey, and have McGlinchey be the sixth man on the offensive line. And instead of having Dwelly trying to kick out someone or block down on someone, it's McGlinchey, who's 6'8", 310. I think that's an interesting way. I mean, why not? If you're trying to run the ball, you widen the face of your formation, and you create more opportunities for double team.
Grant, as quality control, that might actually be the most creative thing that's come out of your mind to this point, and that's saying something. And
teams do it all the time.
More creative than what we've seen from the 49ers so far.
I'm just trying to help, and they don't even pay me.
That's a damn shame.
Yeah. But it's too late. They already got the game plan in. Hayes in the barn. Had they asked me on Monday, I could have told them. But now I'm just styling on them. It's like, you already know what you're going to do. This is what I would do. Could have told you. You didn't ask me. 6 offensive linemen. Zone read was with Trey Lance. That's how you get to the perimeter right there. Tell you right now.
So do you see a balanced attack against Seattle where we stick with the run, or do you think that we see another one where we let the run game get away from us and it's imbalanced?
If they let the run game get away from them and it doesn't work, they're going to lose quick. They're going to fall behind fast, I think. The only way they control this game is if they control the time of possession. And without Kittle, if Kittle doesn't play, I just don't think Jimmy's really built to win like that. Maybe he's done it a few times, but he's more of a complementary piece when the run game is working well.
Yes. Everything sets up off of the run.
There's no shame in that, but that's what he's best at.
Yes.
Top 10 quarterbacks are guys who can really put the team on their shoulders and win with their arm, but he's not exactly that.
With a top 10 quarterback, you can set up the run through the pass much more easily. The other way around, you really do have to set up the run first in order to clear up the passing game.
Yeah. The wide 9 can contain Wilson decently, but worries me against the Seahawks running game. Tackle play is crucial. I don't know about that. The wide 9, these defensive ends get so far upfield, it's really creates big escape routes for the quarterback. We'll see.
Yeah, we have seen Russell.
Sorry. Go ahead.
We have seen Russell definitely burn us a few times.
Russell's third down conversion is not good so far. Well, he hasn't faced Diamond or Lenore yet.
That's right. Expect it to go up this week. Kyle Shanahan has predicted it.
Also, they run the ball really well. I mean, they average about 5 yards a carry, and the Niners are giving up about 5 yards a carry. So,
yeah. How do you feel about the matchup there against Chris Carson? I tend to think that we match up better against running backs with his play style.
Yeah, I think the issue right now with the Niners' run defense isn't the running backs they're facing. It's the fact that their defensive linemen are getting moved around because of the wide 9. Like, they can't. They're exposing both of their defensive tackles to double teams, and DJ Jones, Javon Kinlaw, everyone, they're just getting moved around. And 2 years ago when Buckner was on the team, he would get moved around. I'm not a big fan of the wide 9. Saleh made it work. Ryan's not so much right now.
I'm a huge fan when it gets after the quarterback like it can, but when you get gashed continually in the run game, that is hard to watch. Do you see the same struggles for the starting 2 defensive tackles that you do when the rotations are coming in?
Hold on, say again.
In other words, do you see the same struggles from DJ Jones and Kinlaw to stop the run?
I do.
It's not just a drop off.
It's an impossible assignment. Both of these guys are getting double teamed, and what do you ask? That's like 700 pounds of man pushing against you. It's hard. 650. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Maybe if you had prime Haloti Nada, you could pull it off, but you need guys like that. Vita Vea, 350-pound behemoths who can't be moved. Hard.
Big men.
Hard.
So I tend to think that Russell Wilson will be able to beat the 49ers defense over the top. Is that how you see the Seahawks attacking the 49ers with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett just trying to beat up on this decimated cornerbacking core?
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to run the ball more than the Packers did, and they're going to take more shots than the Packers did. Absolutely. Yes. And they could
Would you anticipate that the 49ers defense will get chewed up pretty quickly? In other words, will the Seahawks set it up for the 49ers to dominate time of possession through big shots?
Well, what if the Seahawks do exactly what the Packers do, where the run game works right away and it sets up play action and there's no pressure on the quarterback all game? I mean, that could happen too.
It could. I mean, Aaron Jones didn't go off, but it seemed only because they didn't need him to. It was 4.5 yards a carry 4.3, something like that. 19 for 82 was what he rushed for. So it wasn't an elite game from overall output, but as far as average, certainly he was getting the yards needed in order to be successful.
Yeah. I mean, the Seahawks are definitely not a good team. These are the two weaker teams in the NFC West right now.
Yes.
The Niners could definitely win this game. They're definitely talented enough. They certainly are good enough to beat the Seahawks. I'm not sure if they're well coached enough right now to beat the Seahawks is what I'm trying to say.
Interesting.
They're talented enough to beat the Seahawks, but they're not using their first round pick who could help. He doesn't need to start, but he could help. There's no creativity in the run game. There's no creativity in the pass game. There's no creativity on defense. I don't know if the Niners are well coached enough right now to win this game.
Interesting. I actually saw the last game as too much creativity in the run game and not enough of the vanilla that would have just run down the Packers' throat. So I'll be interested to see how they come out in this game. Last thought on Seattle before we move into Arizona is, do you see this breaking the 49ers' way, or will it end up in the Seahawks' favor? And if it does, if you don't want to answer your prediction on the game, if you just want to go with the hypothetical, if the 49ers lose to the Seahawks, how crazy does this fan base go?
They'll go crazy. And I'm not going to pick a score, but I think the Seahawks are going to win just because I don't think the Niners have the corners to match up. Simple as that. I'm not going to say it's about Jimmy. I'm not going to say it's about Kyle, although he is the head coach. I'm saying this was a weak position coming into the season. Now they're down to backups, and they're going against two of the best wide receivers in the league and a Hall of Fame quarterback. It's a bad matchup. Now, they can certainly win, but it's a bad matchup. And they are 3-point favorites, but it's a bad matchup.
Yeah. Anytime you're bringing in people off the street for your backups, that is tough, right?
Yeah. So 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits, what they had last week, that's not going to cut it. They're going to need 4 sacks, 11 quarterback hits.
Not going to cut it.
Ford has to do something. Eric Armstead has to do something. Because Bosa's getting mugged.
I see this breaking out as the 49ers taking advantage of the Seattle Seahawks not being able to get off of the field. I see long, sustained drives. I think it will be a close game. But my prediction, I'm not afraid to throw this score out there and be completely wrong on it, as I was last week with the Packers. I'm throwing this out there as the 49ers 34, Seattle 27. I think that the 49ers offense is able to get right against this Seattle defense. But I agree with you that we're talking about the two teams that are in a lower tier within this division at this point in the season. It seems like there's a dividing line between Seattle, San Francisco, and Arizona and the Rams, which is why it's so exciting that those two teams are playing one another in both those matchups.
Yes. Okay, let's talk about Arizona real quick, and then I got to go.
Let's talk about Arizona. So, depending on how we break out against Seattle, the 49er fan base will either be up in arms or celebrating wildly. And then we come up against another buzzsaw in the Arizona offense. When it comes to Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, the young rookie star wide receiver, and a decent run game and a wildly talented defense, even if they're giving up some points to this point in the season, how do you see the 49ers matching up against Arizona?
Well, I don't think Arizona's particularly well coached. I think they kind of underperform. I think they're one of the most talented teams in the league. But
I agree.
Their coach is he's like Chip Kelly. You basically have Chip Kelly as their head coach. So the Niners won't necessarily get out coached. It's just Kyler Murray's playing like an MVP right now. He's got a great wide receiver, just as good as Devontae Adams. Their front seven on defense is just full of talent. They might have the best pass rusher in the league in Chandler Jones. They also have J.J. Watt.
A lot
The
of
Niners
speed.
might not be as talented as I don't know how many teams are as talented as the Cardinals this year.
That's an interesting assessment. I tend to agree with Cliff Kingsbury. Just to follow up on your comparison to Chip Kelly, by that, do you mean that he's a bit of a gimmicky offensive-minded coach that so far hasn't been able to find success in the league?
College coach, doesn't have a lot going on with his scheme, Chip Kelly could run the ball. This guy has no run game. His run game is basically the zone read and scrambles. There's one play. So
what's the bigger limiting factor or talent issue? Is it a bigger limiting factor to have Cliff Kingsbury behind the helm, or is the talent such that it doesn't matter and the Cardinals can win anyway?
He's not making Kyler Murray's job easier.
No.
The way you make a quarterback's job easier is give him a run game and a play action game. He doesn't do that.
Yes.
But Kyler makes his own job easier. He just runs around. He's the whole offense. So it's almost like you don't really have to it's not about Cliff Kingsbury. It's all about Kyler. He's the whole offense. Kind of like a young Russell Wilson.
Yep.
They had a new offensive coordinator every year. It was the same offense. It was Russell Wilson's offense.
He's a young Russell Wilson that tends to make more mistakes than Russell Wilson ever made.
Right, but the Seahawks always gave Russell Wilson a running game.
Yes.
They were never do everything.
And a stellar defense.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, they definitely created an atmosphere that was more conducive to grooming.
Success.
Yeah, grooming a new quarterback, setting him up
Kyler Murray is he's doing this all by himself.
Yes. I have a lot of doubt in Cliff Kingsbury as well. I saw that, the call to try and kick the 60-some yard field goal that led to a lot of momentum coming back the other way.
The only reason that game was remotely close.
Yeah. I see Kyler Murray still making some of those boneheaded throws where he's just chucking it up. And part of that is because he does have a wildly talented wide receiver core. And so throwing up a 50-50 ball is not necessarily a bad play.
Yeah. He's inexperienced and he takes risks, but he also makes big plays. Big.
He does. Very big plays and is able to create on his own even when it seems like there's nothing else there. I see this as a tough matchup for the 49ers. I don't have a score prediction because we're 2 weeks out and a lot of things can change in between now and then. And I'm bad enough with just 3 days until game time. So I don't need to handicap myself any further than that. But I will say that even as a homer, even as someone who believes that the 49ers will get right against Seattle, I think we're then set up to go down and lose one to Arizona because I think that they're hot at this point in time. And so far, the 49ers have not hit their stride.
It's so interesting how big a game this is for both the Niners and the Seahawks, because if the Niners lose this game, then they got Arizona next week, which is probably a tougher game. And then same with the Seahawks. If they lose this game this week, next week they got the Rams, which is a tougher game. So, boy, you could almost argue that the team that loses this game is I'm not going to say screwed. But this is a very big game for both teams.
Very big. The Seahawks have, I think, 3 games coming up that are real tough for them. And the 49ers with these next 2 and then the bye. Oh, how miserable would that be for the fan base and for the coaching staff and for the players to drop 2 in a row to 2 division rivals and then have a week off to think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We got it. We got to stick with the Seahawks this week.
Yes.
It's very exciting and intriguing what's at stake for the 49ers the next 2 games. Then they'll have to figure out what they want to do at the bye week coming up. Rob, this was a lot of fun, man. Thank you.
A hell of a lot of fun. Thank you for having me on. As always, to anybody listening, go follow my YouTube channel.
Certainly. And Shanahan's going to talk to the press in about an hour and 15. Let's see what he says. I'll be back in a couple hours to talk about what he talks about. It's going to be a reaction. All right. See you around, Rob, and everyone.
See you, Grant.